Save the Second is a pro-Second Amendment organization. Through good or bad, we're here to help drive and save the NRA from itself and the Second from the infighting that happens among the Second Amendment supporters. Because without the Second, the rest will fall. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-host and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Save the Second or their employers. This show offers commentary on the latest news associated with the NRA and Save the Second's endeavor to promote a strong, relevant, effective, and accountable NRA.
Oh my goodness gracious. Welcome to the Save the Second podcast. Today is December 8th. Oh my goodness, we are 17 days before Christmas. Right? I hope you got your Christmas shopping done. Oh my goodness. In this episode, I'm so delighted to have Derek LeBlanc from Kids Safe Foundation. We're going to have an amazing conversation with him. He's amazing. You're going to love everything he has to say, I promise. And if you don't love it, well, you can leave. Okay, bad joke. No, you can stay, you can watch, you can ask your questions, you can comment, you can like, you can share. Please do all that so that we can have more people get into the conversation. We already have Cousin from Nebraska. Cousin, what's up, man? That's good to see you again. We'll be discussing a little bit later on some NRA news and just a little bit more. My name is Ron Carter, of course, and we have Derek. Derek, would you please tell us about yourself?
Hi, I'm Derek LeBlanc. I'm president of the Kids Safe Foundation. We're a small nonprofit based in Eugene, Oregon. And so we teach firearm safety and accident prevention for kids. And so I started this program about 5 years ago, and we've reached about 17,000 kids in 4 different states and taught them life-saving skills if they were ever to come across an unsecured firearm.
Oh my goodness gracious, 17,000?
Mm-hmm.
Holy smokes, I've maybe trained 300 or 400 students in my 6 years of being an instructor. Oh my good God. Wow. That's amazing. Well, okay, so back up a little bit before you start talking about that, which is going to be amazing and mind-blowing for me. But I'm really curious, how did you get into firearms to begin with?
So I've been shooting my whole life. And so my greatest experience is my father, we lived rurally, and my dad gave me a Red Ryder at about 4 years old, my first shotgun at, 5 years old. And so I have some pretty cool stories that I actually get to share in the classes that we teach to kids. And so I've been shooting my entire life. I did have an interesting situation happen to me that kind of catapulted me to where I am today. And basically it was a use of force type situation where I was unarmed and I had to put somebody on the ground and actually fight with them for about 10 minutes until my girlfriend came out with a shotgun and saved me. And so it's from that point, I got involved with the 2A community and been more active and been more vocal and became an instructor. And from that, I realized that there were some potential hazards inside the home. And so that's when I started looking at programs. And so there was one, and I wasn't necessarily sure how well it'd be well received in my area, being from Eugene, Oregon. And so I just started developing my own. And so it was, I think, about 2.5 years of hard development. And then we've been a nonprofit for almost 4 years now. And so it's been an amazing experience. We've done some pretty cool things.
Wow. So, obviously you didn't just wake up one morning and decide, I'm going to be an instructor, and the very next day I'm an instructor. So can you go through that process real fast? There's a lot of folks obviously that are in our community and watch this that are curious about becoming an instructor themselves. Yeah. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, a lot of it is obviously being able to be, relevant to people and being able to and relatable. And so, being very personable, it was a pretty easy transition. Obviously, I took that harrowing experience that happened to me on the ground and kind of used that to educate the public and grow. I've, sought quite a bit of training and kept furthering my education, and it put me on a path to where I am today. And so I've, obviously I recommend, if there's people that were trying to become instructors, is obviously, vet the instructors you're taking classes from and invest in the training. There's a lot of great instructors out there, and there's also ones that, probably shouldn't be instructing. And that's, part of the downfall of the NRA program is it doesn't necessarily vet who is an instructor. And so I think, we have to police our own a little bit better. And part of it is just being able to be safe and make sure that you're teaching good, safe, relevant tactics and habits.
Right. Absolutely. Now, of course, you're in Eugene, Oregon. So many people that are watching this are, like my cousin is in Nebraska, right? Can you perhaps give some sort of recommendations for training? Say I'm a guy in Colorado, who should I try to seek out training from? Obviously I need to vet them, but are there any particular names or entities that I should try to look at?
Well, I think, obviously you can go to the NRA training website and you can find out a training counselor would probably be your first step, and, go to a training counselor and, kind of absorb all the information. A lot of the problem with the NRA program though, is it's kind of outdated. I mean, from my opinion, I feel like it's almost written by an attorney, and it's not necessarily, especially when we're talking about use of force and stuff like that. It's not necessarily the most relevant or up to date, so be really, really careful on the information you put out to the public, to make sure that you're obviously in line with your legal state or local municipalities. That's the biggest challenge is you never want to be that instructor that, puts out that information for that somebody either hurts someone or gets hurt themselves. And I would hate for that on my conscience, so I work really, really hard to make sure everything that we put out is sound, and everything's based on safety and on education as well.
Absolutely. And for those of you that are watching and may not know a little bit more about me, I'm an NRA certified instructor, and I can certainly agree with some of the points that Derek is mentioning. Of course, with Save the Second, with us, we're trying to reform the NRA and make it relevant, make it effective, and make it better, overhaul it, right? So it's a difficult job for us, but I think Derek has, in some cases, more of an interesting problem. For example, teaching a child is very different than teaching an adult. Right. I mean, there's okay.
Maybe.
Well, hey, tell us about it, man. I've only taught a few kids, right? My own included. Right. So yeah. Tell me your thoughts on that.
I think, we have a couple different classes that we teach. We have kids firearm safety education. This class is sterile, no firearms. It's designed for to be taught in a public school. I actually wrote a Senate bill that would authorize this program in the state of Oregon. We had a good run. We made some great progress. We're testing the water to see if we go back this year. We died in committee, but we learned a lot from that process. And then we also do what's called the Kids Firearm Safety 1. And so this one is more in depth. I actually bring in live firearms, make sure they're safety check, and basically what I'm doing is I'm having a conversation with the families, and I'm showing the parents how to load and unload, and making sure that they do that process properly. And I'm also engaging with the kids because I want them to make sure that if they ever come across that gun, that they don't make a mistake and pick it up. Just because they took a class doesn't make them experts. And so I'm very, very clear about that. But the whole point is being able to engage in a conversation and put it in a way that a 5 and 6 year old child can understand. And if they have questions, they can ask that question in a controlled environment. A lot of times, from 2 to 7, our kids can get their information from either the media, violent video games, YouTube. They call it magical thinking, where they don't have enough life experience or maturity, and they're making these decisions because they're getting that information from their environments. And so that's why our class is so important, because we're cutting out all that BS, and we're talking about relevant things that could affect your kids in their day-to-day lives. And then we also do a Kids Firearm Safety 2 class, which is separate, different than the Eddie Eagle program. We're definitely different than Eddie Eagle program. We're like Eddie Eagle 2.0, because we're talking about, in our Kids Firearm Safety 1 class, we're talking about anti-bullying. We're talking about video games, video game violence. We're talking about Nerf guns, airsoft guns, safety there. We have guns that are Cerakoted, and we actually engage the kids and have them pick out the gun that either could be real or fake. And a lot of times they can't pick out the difference. And so that's kind of where we're going with that. I'm not a big fan of Cerakoted guns. I think it's a bad marketing gimmick for the gun industry because it makes it more inviting for kids. And so ultimately, we just saw something I think it was in Colorado, where that lady was sentenced to, I think, 20 years because she was on meth and her son got a hold of her pink gun and put it in his mouth thinking it was a water gun, and it killed him. And so something like that, I mean, so preventable and unacceptable. And so from that firearm safety 1, we followed up with the firearm safety 2, and this one's on the range. And so we get to actually shoot rimfires. And so that's a lot of fun because we get to reinforce everything that we learned in that first class with actually real rifles. And so that's a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness. What you just said is amazing to me. First of all, my mind immediately went to the debate between anti-gun and pro-gun folks.
Mm-hmm.
And if the pro-gun folks are able to truly own safety, I mean, the 4 rules, before breakfast sort of safety and follow that stringently, well, my gosh, you take all of the Everytown for gun safety out of the equation because they're not for safety, right? Yeah. Tell me about that.
Well, see, that's a buzzword that they use to make it look like they really care about safety. They really don't, because if they were and they understand the data the way you and I understand the data, they wouldn't be pushing, gun-free zones. They wouldn't be pushing red flag orders. We have to call it what it is. I mean, it's confiscation, it's registration, it's regulation. Okay. That being said, as an educator, as a president of a nonprofit that deals with this, I can prove without a shadow of a doubt, the places that I go into that have strong gun control laws, those kids are so vulnerable. And so that strict gun control is actually counterproductive to safety. And I can prove that, and we will prove that. And so when we do not educate, when we put a taboo on something that's potentially deadly, like a firearm, that makes it education non-existent. And so that's why I'm pushing education everywhere. And it's we need a lot of adults, a lot of policymakers need education. And that's why my Senate bill that I wrote last year, 801 in Oregon, was so easy for people to get behind because it was written by somebody that's an expert in the subject matter. Like right now, every law that's trying to infringe upon our Second Amendment rights is written by somebody that has no idea what a clip or what a magazine or what the muzzle is. And so, and that's, I guess the only thing I would talk about tonight is we're all experts in the subject matter, right? And so we, as a collective, can write effective laws that can counter the laws that are being put out on the other side. And we could do it in the guise of safety, right? Because we're the ones that are educated in that matter, because, we know what it's like to carry that gun in that situation and hopefully, defend ourselves or someone else.
Man, yeah, dude, you've got so many irons in the fire. Not only are you, teaching folks, but you're writing bills, for your state. My gosh, what else are you doing?
Well, I work full time too, so I am spread a little thin, but it's something that, in my state of Oregon, I want to lead, right? There's a void, there's a vacuum there. And so I want to be there and there's a lot of people that are trying to lead and they're doing a great job, but I don't agree with the message. And the reason I don't agree with the message, because it only reaches a certain amount of people. And so what I try to do is try to be more broad-based, more outreaching and reach, people that are either in the middle or, soft on the left, where I can get them and actually get them for an hour, educate them, and convert them. It's all about conversion. And when I'm up there saying, come and take it, that's not going to convert anyone. And I'm speaking to the choir. And so we have to get outside of our comfort zones and get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah. We can't just preach to the choir and expect the church to grow, right?
No.
Oh my goodness. And, I always come back to the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The right of the people, not the right of the Republicans, not the right of the conservatives, not the right of the libertarians. So it is the citizens' right. And hey, if we can educate those citizens, well, that education goes so far. It's not just a little bitty thing. It's not a marketing pitch. It's not a meme. It's something that's truly life-changing. Safety is truly life-changing. Handling a firearm safely, being able to defend yourself with a firearm safely. Yeah, I think that might actually save your life, right? I mean, goodness.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, it's not a right or left issue. It's a good versus evil. It's a right versus wrong. I mean, it's basic since the beginning of our civilization, Cain with a rock, it doesn't matter the tool. I mean, we take away all the guns. They're still going to be like what's happening in the UK. They're using heavy trucks. They're using knives. We had a guy that stopped a terrorist threat with a piece of horn.
Tusk. Yeah, the narwhal tusk. What?
Yes, that's a meme. There's a meme right there.
Oh yeah, dude.
But I don't want to get to that point. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world for a reason, and we will continue to be that way as long as we can get involved, get engaged, get off the couch, and do something to effectively counter what's happening in our society.
Hey, tell me more about that. What would you tell the average person that's listening or watching this? How can they get off the couch? And like me, this was me, even 3 years ago. Like, I thought the fight was somewhere else, and all that I could do was just maybe donate dollars to the fight. That was it. So, and of course, I'm in Colorado now, where the fight is at my doorstep. Legislatively, of course. But yeah, Derek. I mean, Oregon is something else. I love Oregon. I really do. I love Eugene, but oh my goodness, it's night and day difference. So how would you advise somebody get off the couch?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of people they're busy, and I don't think that it's a bad thing that if you're so busy that you donate to good organizations. There's a lot of great organizations out there, and yours including mine as well. And obviously, I'm not here to put my hand out for cash, but it's ultimately is you work very hard for your money. Don't just give it to anyone. And I know the NRA is very good with their marketing and the way they fundraise, but do your research. I mean, part of being an advocate, and I never say I'm an activist, I'm an advocate, because I'm not an activist. I'm an advocate because I believe in my constitutionally protected right to lawful self-defense. But that's separate from the teaching that I do with the kids, because I don't talk about my Second Amendment right when I'm dealing with a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old, because I'm not trying to convert kids into liking guns or not liking guns. I'm trying to convert them into being safe and right. You'd be surprised how many kids that I see that don't make eye contact. They don't give me a firm handshake. And so what I try to do is every kid I meet for the first time, I'm always shaking their hand, looking for eye contact the first time I meet them. And the reason I do that is I'm sizing them up, because if I do it, that predator is doing it. And so we're always talking about sex trafficking as well in our class, because it's a real problem. And that's the kids are being accessed through these video games, and we're not talking about the video games. We're talking about the modern sporting rifle or the Glock 19. We're not talking about, how every year Nerf comes out with a new gun that fires a faster rate of fire at a longer distance. And we're basically, this is my opinion, we're militarizing young kids. It's okay for a kid to pick up a Nerf gun and shoot at another kid. I don't like that. And I'm trying to teach good habits to make sure that we're shooting targets, not on one another. Obviously that's age specific, but, at a young age from like 5 to 8, I'm not advocating they have Nerf gun wars. Obviously as their maturity grows, as their brain develops, then we can have fun, I guess. I can't be such a purist, but
well, and I think before the show, you and I were talking, and you mentioned something that I wasn't quite up to speed with. I don't think I'd heard it before. Something about the magical understanding of kids, and
so magical thinking.
Yeah, can you tell us about
thinking? Yes, so magical thinking it typically is in ages from 2 to 7. Okay, so 2 to 7, that's when those kids don't have enough life experience, they don't have enough maturity, and that's where they're getting their information from their environments. Well, either it could be YouTube, it could be their friends, it could be violent video games, it could be violent TV. Okay, so there are studies out there that prove that violent video games, violent TVs actually desensitize our kids to violence, also can make them more aggressive. And typically when I'm in a class and I'm talking about the video games, normally the kids that kind of act out in class, those are the ones that have been exposed to those violent video games at a younger age. And there's a correlation there, and nobody wants to talk. And there is a evil video game lobby out there. And obviously people probably think I'm wearing a tin hat, but it's through the sheer amount of kids that I come in contact with that have helped develop these correlations. And so I think we should definitely be researching it further. It's not the gun problem. We don't have a gun problem in the United States. We have a lack of empathy for our fellow human being problem.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree with that.
And the tool is the gun, unfortunately, because they are readily accessible on the black market, and they're lethal. And I was glad to see that NSF report. I don't know if you've seen that, where there's actually they think that there's 423 million firearms in the United States that they know of. 423
million?
Yes.
Oh my goodness gracious. So that's almost 2 to 1 for the amount of citizens. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yes. And they have an estimate that there's, I believe, 17 million modern sporting rifles in the United States.
Wow.
And you look at numbers. Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. Yeah. And with those amount of numbers, you would think the murder rate would be higher, as opposed to, the problem is they use the data. They skew the data. Like when I talk about violent homicides, I'm not lumping in suicides with that. If we talk about violent homicides, the numbers go down dramatically in maybe a third, or half. So I think we have to, and the part of it is us being educated on that subject matter is we have to be careful that we can craft the message where our friends that might not know on our social medias, but make it so they want to read that. Okay. And that's part of what I've learned over the years is I've become an expert when it comes to the messaging and being able to reach those ones that are either on the fence or slightly to the left. And sometimes, the pro 2A guys are real hard on me, which I get it, because I'm not trying to reach them. Right. I know I can reach them every day. But I'm trying to reach those ones that I need their votes. I need them to maybe seek a class, maybe bring their kid to a class so they can make their own educated decisions. So.
Okay, so tell me about reaching those people, the people who don't know what they don't know, right? I mean, how do you go up to somebody that knows nothing about firearms and has misconceptions and say, I want to teach you? Yeah, how does that work? How do you reach that audience?
So typically what I do is I got three steps that I would use. So obviously I start off with a conversation, right? I listen to what they're saying, right? If they lost somebody to either suicide or they are afraid of guns, I show empathy. When I offer empathy, I build a human personal connection. Okay. When I have that connection, I can build the trust, and then I can re-educate. And so we do this all the time because I'm able to relate to people that are afraid. And typically when I'm relating with them, it's because I have their kids there. And so they want, in their kid's eye, they know everything. And so they come to me because they don't, which is good. Right. I'm glad they're there. And I'm like, I always pull the crowd. Typically, my last statistic, about 40% of the people that come to our classes do not have any firearms in their home. Okay.
Wow.
Of that percentage, about 25% actually follow us up on the range. Okay. And so of the 25%, about 10% actually buy firearms so their kids can engage in the education, the safety, and the discipline and respect with the firearm that we offer. And so we actually convert non-gun owners into gun owners because of the way I'm able, and as an organization, we're able to relate to the families. But if I can do it, you can do it. Everybody can do it. It comes down to we have to be careful with the way we talk to the other side. Ultimately, I'm in Oregon, you're in Colorado. We're both, in very volatile situations right now because the numbers are not in our favor. And so the way we get the numbers in our favor is we educate and redirect and show them that these guns are in our society for a reason. So, I think it would be real bold of Michael Bloomberg to come out and say I'm going to take away your guns, but I'm going to give up my armed security. He'd never do that because he knows the relevance of the firearm in the situation and train competent hands. And he has armed security for that reason. But why is his life more important than mine or yours? It's not. And so just because you have a deep bank account doesn't make you any more important than any one of us. And so it's our job as influencers or educators is to be able to put out the information out there so the public can get it and be well received and it can go virally,
Absolutely. Well, yeah. And going virally, man, you've had several posts on Facebook that have certainly caught my attention, man. I've reshared, quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're on Facebook quite a bit, but where else are you on the social medias?
So currently we do have a YouTube channel. I don't really do much with it. We also have, big on Instagram, Twitter. I really don't do much with Twitter. It gets very toxic. Very careful because I don't want to tarnish what we do by getting divisive. And I find that the stuff that I see on Twitter is very divisive. It's very one-sided. And I'd rather just put out good information on, Facebook's probably typically we reach about 150 to 100,000 people a month through our Facebook. And it's been fun. So, and that's what's kind of helped me kind of craft the message and how I learned these guys are going to think I'm crazy. The way I learned how to craft the message was sitting down across the table with people in red shirts. And, I engaged in conversations for many years with the other side because it was important to me and I wanted to reach them and reach their kids and show them that education will do more than any new law. And we can prove that. Dude,
you got to tell me more about that. Honestly. Okay. So I've had several conversations with, anti-gun folks, but you're telling me that you went to Moms Demand Action, rallies and whatnot, or?
Yeah, I've gone to the rallies and I've walked through the streets of Eugene with them. Obviously they're wearing their orange shirt. I'm not going to wear an orange shirt. I'm going to wear a black shirt. I do now every June 7th, I believe is when they wear orange. I do wear an orange shirt and I make sure that I do train that day and I use the hashtags, their hashtags. So my, training pictures are in there wearing my orange shirt, but that's part of my responsibility to help reduce gun violence is by furthering my education and making sure that I go in everywhere I go, that I can do it lawfully, that I carry that gun and I carry it concealed. And it's for my safety. It's for my family's safety. It's also for the public safety. And, I would love to see more good guy stories with a gun as opposed to, the bad stuff that goes viral, unfortunately, like the people having a mistake or an accident. I think that's counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish right now. I mean, optics is everything. So,
well, yeah, especially in this climate where you can convince that, half of America that, the AR-15, the modern sporting rifle is this evil killing machine, yet more people died from constipation in 2018 than they did the modern sporting rifle. I was looking through the CDC and I think more people had choked on food and died, from, choking on their food than from, the modern sporting rifle. That, of course, we know these statistics. You and I are gun dudes, even though we're in completely different, areas.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But the problem for me, especially and what you are doing is being able to be a part of the conversation to people that aren't in our microcosm, in our bubble. And that's a huge problem for me, man. I get in that bubble and it is so difficult to break out. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
so
we have to make a conscious effort, a lot of times, like I'm not really welcome at those meetings anymore because, I would get the information, I would feed it to my people. For a long time, I built trust with them, but as they became more aggressive with, trying to take away my constitutionally protected rights, I'd go in there and listen. And, then it become kind of a tense type situation where they knew I was there to gather intel and to feed our side, so I had a good run with them, and I still get the email blast. I recommend right now, everybody go sign up for Moms Demand Actions email blasts. Okay.
Really?
You will get them multiple times a week, or, depending on if they have a shooting. Okay. You can find out their talking points. You can find out how they're fundraising. You can do this. Obviously, I set up a dummy account so they can't out you. But that way you can see, truly what drives they use a lot of fear tactics. They use a lot of emotion through these emails. A lot of the times they're very personal, and excuse me, I'd like to find a way for us to counter that and use, they use unfortunate loss of life as a way to fundraise and to garner support for them to further take away our rights. And so I would love to be able to send out mass emails on the other side saying, this gun saved my life. Like, especially a woman, like Diana Mueller is my hero. Okay. And other strong women like her, because they can communicate a little bit more effectively with the other side, especially in the red shirts, than, you and I could.
Oh, absolutely, man. Gabby Franco comes to my mind.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Amazing. And Adam A, there's a lot of solid women in the movement that are doing a lot of great work on our behalf. And we need to support them. And like, I don't know if you guys have followed the DC Project.
Yeah,
check out the DC Project. These ladies are superstars. And with that, they're making the meetings over there in Washington, DC with their legislators, and they're doing our work that we're sitting on the couch not doing anything about. So get involved there. You can find out what they're doing. Maybe send a couple bucks their way. Because there's quite a bit of money that it takes for them to go to DC to lobby on our behalf. So.
Absolutely, 100% agree, man. DC Project is, I've been very, 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 amazed at what they've accomplished in such a short time. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And of course I'm a fan also of Firearms Policy Coalition and Gun Owners America and Second Amendment Foundation. Like I'm fans of all of them. But go ahead. Sorry.
And that's why there's so many other organizations you can invest in. Okay. As opposed to sending that money to the NRA right now. And I don't want to go too much off the rails, but I think right now, the only way that we need, I'll be very frank, we do need a strong NRA. But through that is we need, greater transparency. We also need them to be accountable, and they need to be in touch with the membership. They're not. I don't know many NRA members that go and buy $30,000 suits. Okay. To me, that's unacceptable. Okay. Because I think that's not good use of our money as members.
And thank you for bringing that up, because of course that is what Save the Second is focused on. That's what I've spent the last 6 months just absolutely stuck in is the NRA, what's wrong. And well, one of the things that I like to do, at least in my training, is like after action, right? After the training class, I'll sit down with my training team and I said, all right, hey guys, what went right? And so we'll talk about, oh yeah, man, did you see that chick over there? First shot, center mass, right on target. It was great. But we'll talk about what went right. Then we'll talk about what went wrong. Mm-hmm. And hey, we got to be real. We got to be open, and we got to be honest. We got to say, okay, we had this happen. This can never happen again. This was, not safe or didn't encourage training or something like that. So what went right? What went wrong? And what can we do better? Mm-hmm. Three simple things. 3 simple questions. And, looking at the NRA, at least in the past 2 years is when I've become enlightened to the malfeasance and corruption going on. You mentioned the $30,000 suits that Wayne LaPierre, bought for himself with an Ackerman McQueen American Express card. Yeah, not out of his own salary. Oh my gosh, that just, it made me furious. Absolutely furious. There's Dude, your entire budget, or at least my entire budget for shooting, and training people, it's not even $10,000, and he's spending $30,000 on suits. Holy God Almighty! And I've said it before. You can add up my house and my cars, and they don't equal what Wayne LaPierre wears daily. So, oh yeah.
But see, that's the difference between you and I is we're not doing this to get rich. Okay, we're doing this because obviously there's a void, because somebody else is not doing it or not doing it properly, or we truly care about what we believe in. And that's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to protect children, and I'm trying to protect my rights, and I'm not going to give up my guns, because I have a constitutionally protected right that proves, and it's been backed up in court. It's sound, but it comes down to, these are very trying times, and we do need a strong NRA. But we also need an NRA that's accountable to the membership. And when you're having closed door meetings, and your people pick up the mics and you're cutting the mics because you don't want them to say what they have to say, I think that's wrong. And do we really need 76 board members? I believe you when you have that many board members, you're opening yourself up for conflicts, and we're seeing this. Yeah. And now the cream is rising to the top. Okay, so when the cream is rising to the top, those are the ones that are protecting the king, which is Wayne LaPierre, and that's unfortunate, because ultimately we're all we need the NRA. We need a solvent NRA, though. We need one that can't be attacked by the other side. So
yeah, I totally agree. And looking at the NRA, I think we need the NRA. We need it to be strong. We need it to be relevant. We need it to be effective. We need it to be accountable, and it has to be accountable as quickly as possible. What we don't need, and I'll say this and I'll clarify later, we don't need Wayne LaPierre. We don't need Wayne LaPierre. Wayne LaPierre is a person. He is not God. Anthony Garcia said it, several weeks ago, Wayne LaPierre doesn't get a call from the president because he's Wayne LaPierre. It's because Wayne LaPierre represents the 5 million members of the NRA. Okay. So, and that could be anybody. I mean, Joe Schmo could be the next CEO/vice president of the NRA, and Joe Schmo is going to get a call from the president of the United States because he's representing the NRA. It's a cult of personality that we've seen. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a guy that's all cynical as to looking at any one person and putting them on a pedestal. Okay. I understand that each and every person on this earth is fallible. Okay. We all have problems. We are not perfect by any shape, form, or fashion. There's some guys that are obviously more qualified than others. Maybe, they've been more than a Democratic speechwriter like Wayne LaPierre was before he became the CEO/vice president. I kid you not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he sure was. Now, of course, that was in the 80s, and I'm not saying that the Democrats are evil by any stretch. I don't think any party is evil. I think there's a lot of flawed policy and a lot of uneducated folks running around. But yeah, I think Wayne LaPierre does not need to be where he is, especially because he's been abusing the member dues and donations instead of, sinking money into training or to educating children on firearm safety, educating adults on firearm safety. I mean, my goodness gracious, I hate to look at this quote as a good quote, but Andy Lander, even mentioned it several weeks ago. Adolf Hitler said that he could change the entire world if you gave him a generation. And, don't get me wrong. I hate everything that Hitler ever stood for, but oh my goodness gracious, is that not right? I mean, if we could change culture in America in less than 20 years, if that group of persons going through school was changed. And that's,
we're seeing that happen right now.
You're absolutely right.
Happening right now. And it comes down, that's why I view my position in society as very, very important, because I'm giving the kids the truth. Like I remember, I'll tell you a story. It was a couple classes ago where I always use a dummy round in my class. I was talking about magazines. I showed the box magazine for the AR-15, and I showed the bullet, right? I showed this little orange projectile, and this kid kind of went back like this. And he said that my teacher said that those are designed to rip through flesh. And I kind of sat there for a second because I felt, I was kind of shocked. And all the parents were, did he really just say that? And, first of all, that's not really a teacher's job. The teacher's job should be there to educate, not to use their influence and their fears and use them on the children. We're seeing that pretty commonly is kids are living in fear. And now the other sides are starting to weaponize young kids, and which makes it a lot harder as advocates. How do we push back on somebody that's 16 years old or, marching for their lives? They have a valid point, but I think they're being controlled by, puppet masters, really. It comes down to these people have no experience with firearms. They saw something on Snapchat. They saw something on Facebook. Now they're afraid. Now they're offended. And so, my job is very, very important because I give the kids the truth. I give the families the truth. I'm not trying to push an agenda. I'm just pushing safety. I never push guns. I don't push anti-gun. I push safety. And so that's what makes this so successful, because I'm able to relate to so many more than just my side. And so, but if I can do it, so can you.
Heck yeah, man.
And that's the only thing I can do is we have to evolve as advocates and use the big part of our brain, not just the small. And that way, we communicate more effectively with those that might be in fear, right? And we educate them. We maybe take them to the range. We might, answer any kind of questions they might have, maybe engage them in a good conversation, not one where it's polarizing. So.
Right. And that's something that we at Save the Second really have to understand too, is we have to reach the uneducated, uninformed NRA members. 94% of the voting eligible NRA members did not vote in last year's director election. Only 6% vote. So if you're looking at that, well, holy smokes, that's 94%. They could potentially be completely oblivious to the fact that we were just talking about Wayne LaPierre's, $30,000 suits. And beyond that, they might not even be aware that Chris Cox is gone, or that, the NRA is suing the prior president, Oliver North. Trying to reach them and cut through, just that education is difficult, but also the amount of fear mongering, right? I mean, the NRA does a lot of fear-based marketing, and in some cases, rightfully so, because I guarantee you, Bloomberg is going to spend a lot of money trying to be elected, and he's already telling us, that he's going to wipe away guns. So there's a bit of legitimate fear, with the NRA's marketing, but oh my goodness gracious, there's so much noise, and trying to fight through that noise has to be one-on-one, like you were having with that kid.
Yeah. And I was in that situation. I sat there for a second. I pondered because I was actually kind of irritated by that comment. I was upset with the teacher, not the kid.
Right.
And I was able to draw an analogy because I thought like that 6-year-old boy. I was like, if I was a 6-year-old boy, what would I understand? And so then I thought for a second. I looked at the parents and I stay with me for 1 second. And so that's when I brought up the analogy where Jello and a spoon, right? So I say I have a metal spoon and it cuts through the softer Jello, right? Because the Jello is softer than this piece of metal spoon. And the parents are kind of like, he actually pulled that off. And the kid actually understood what I was getting. But the whole point is our schools are not for re-education or re-indoctrination. They are there for them to learn a skill, hopefully a trade where they can go on and be successful human beings. But, us on the outside looking in, we have a responsibility to educate them, make sure they have good, relevant information. And that comes where, and I got a convert out of that, because now he knows what the bullet is, and it's not designed to tear through flesh. I mean, obviously it can if used improperly, but that's not what we're trying to teach. We're trying to teach safety, so this would never happen. Right. And so, that's why we need more people that can reach more people with that same approach or a similar approach. And it's something that's supposed to be inviting. We should all want to exercise this right. But I do respect the parents that don't want to, right? So sure. I never say, oh, well, you don't like guns, so you don't matter. No, every parent matters, every kid matters. And I think that's what's made our program so successful is I kind of equate it to like water safety. right? We teach our kids to swim because we don't want them to drown. Okay. Same concept behind my firearm safety program is I'm teaching kids about firearms because I don't want them to die. Okay. Statistically in Oregon, they're more likely to die at the hand of a firearm than they are at a pool. And so that's why, Texas is a little bit different. Texas, the data says there a lot of kids die in actually 5-gallon buckets, which is interesting. So, obviously we have to be able to have those conversations, and, they're not comfortable conversations, but it's something we need to have.
I totally agree, man. Absolutely agree. Yeah. On your side, and frankly, I think what you are doing is far more important to the advancement of the Second Amendment. In fact, Jameson Nethery, he concurs. He says, this is how we advance the 2A. This is awesome. We've got to get firearms education into schools, just like fire, pull, farm equipment safety. I could not agree more.
No, I completely agree. And that's, that was the goal behind Senate Bill 801 in Oregon. And it would have kept the NRA out of the schools. I was actually trying to empower first responders or, certified teachers to teach our program. It only been, a 15-minute class once or twice a year. And it's not pushing guns, it's pushing safety. And if we can do something to re-educate and make sure and lower statistical data when it comes to accidents inside the home, that's how we're gonna make progress, and that's what we're trying to do as an organization. But we're a small organization, but our reach is pretty good through the social media, and that's why I'm glad to be here tonight, to kind of help talk about something I'm very, very passionate about. And obviously it's protecting my rights. They go hand in hand. And I guess the one thing I would tell him is it's not my responsibility to protect your rights or your right to it's everybody's right to protect our rights. And so that's the biggest thing that if I could tell anybody and have that light bulb go off, it's like, I can do something. What can I do? I can make a meme. I can send a check, or I can, call a legislator. I could write an email. If we do this effectively, we can stop what's happening. But we have to quit pointing fingers at one another and realize there's things that we can do better. Like, there's no reason for a gun just to be laying around for our kid to find. And the biggest challenge that I have is, obviously we have a Second Amendment right for a reason, but with that right comes responsibility. And so with that, education is a critical part of that. And what I always hate hearing from parents that are staunch 2A is, oh, that would never be my kid. My kid knows, right? Yeah, but we don't know about Billy. If he goes over to Billy for a play date, Billy knows where the gun is, and Billy is proud of the gun and wants to show your kid, and that's how your kid gets killed.
Right.
It happens all the time. 8 to 9 kids per day across the country, on average.
Okay? And that's so preventable, so unacceptable.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's frustrating.
I mean, our mantra is zero firearm accidents is the only acceptable goal. And I did get challenged. I've only been challenged one time, and that was at GRPC this year. And then I had a guy saying, how do you get to zero? Zero, I don't even know why you say zero, because zero is impossible. I looked at him for a second. I thought, as I was getting ready to blow a gasket, until I get to zero, I'm still going to be working, right? I still have to make progress until there is zero. Until I get to zero, I'm going to still have a job. And that's the way I look at it. And I'm not going to stop until they're going to listen, and they're going to listen to our experience and what we have to say. I'm sick of people making laws for me, that affect me and impact my life, when we're not the problem. None of those laws that they write affect a criminal.
Right. Absolutely.
They make us criminals, and we're not the ones out there committing crimes. So,
right. Now, on the other hand, our community is largely the ones that are using their car as a holster. That's how firearms get stolen. So, I mean, there's that conversation of, within our community of, hey, you're a soup sandwich. Stop being a soup sandwich. Be safe, be responsible, go. Right?
Well, I mean, with the advances in technology, there's no reason to leave a gun laying out. I mean, right. Flat out. If you do, and I don't mean to make you feel bad, you're ignorant. And the fact that you can go spend some money, you can buy the gun box is a great model. Vault-Tec makes another one. You can get into these in an instant. Okay. Yeah. The Vault-Tec that I have sends me a text alert if it ever moves, right? I mean, there's no reason, there's no excuse to leave a gun just laying around. Okay. Flat
totally
out.
Agree.
Either your kid can be hurt or someone else's kid can be hurt or it can be stolen and used in the commission of a crime. So how would you like to have that on your conscience that your firearm is used in the commission of a robbery where some single mother is killed? Like, I wouldn't want that.
No, absolutely not.
And so, we have to police our own. We have to know that there's things that we aren't doing effectively or appropriately and make the change, or they're going to make the change for us. I mean, it comes down to that. If we're not going to do it, they're going to do it. And so why not meet them and say, hey, we have solutions to these problems. We're working these solutions right now. These solutions work. Okay. So how about we be involved in this conversation? Okay. I'm not saying getting a conversation about red flags, because I think without due process, I think that's a total misstep. Yeah. And, I'm not going to go there, but we have 22,000 laws in the books.
Probably more.
In Oregon, we're not enforcing gun crimes the way they should be enforced. I mean, we're not fixing the NICS system when that's proven to be broken. Oh, yeah. But we want to take away our rights because it's going to fix the problem. It's not. It's going to go nowhere. So the goal is our collective voices to be able to re-educate the other side and show them in an effective way that this, what they're trying to propose will never work.
And, you mentioned, all the laws, right? There's so many. And, I keep thinking about the folks in the comments generally, and you'll see them, I mean, when one of these bills comes up, there's always a dude in the comments that's, types in capital letters, shall not be infringed. Right?
I love that.
Yeah. And sometimes there's more, when Bloomberg was out in Colorado this past week, I saw the headline on Facebook and I'm like, okay, comment section, right? And you scroll down and shall not be infringed, right? I get it. I totally get it. Shall not be infringed. Yeah. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. But guess what, folks?
They do every day.
Exactly.
Guess what? Every gun law is an infringement. So
85 years since the Gun Control Act of 1934, right? And come on, man. It's been infringement after infringement. We've got to do more than type shall not be infringed.
Yeah, and CAPS doesn't get, I mean, we get it. You're impassioned about your two-way rights. Okay. Puts your money where your mouth is and take action. Okay. And take action effectively. And it doesn't mean right shall not infringe to your elected official. It means be very smart with the message, right? Everything's about the message. And when I talk about Senate Bill 801, and that's how we made so many good friends up there in Salem, because the way our supporters worded the message. Every time that I would put out a Facebook video for my supporters to send letters and emails to our representatives, everyone was very kind, very on point. And it's to the point when I go into meetings with my senators or representatives, they were like, we've never seen anything like this.
Wow.
And it was very refreshing. And it was to the point where I was able to get a lot of backdoor appointments because of they knew what we stood for and what we're trying to accomplish. And they didn't think that I was coming through there with an angle. I was just coming with education and safety. And so that, that's the biggest thing is what we have to realize is when we send that heated email to that representative, it's read by a staffer. Okay. A staffer is typically they're interns. So they're 21 to 25 years old. Okay. They're basically the gatekeepers. Okay. The gatekeepers. And if you start off with shall not be infringed, it's going in the junk folder. Okay. If you can and sound very intelligent and smart and be not aggressive, I mean, you're more likely to have your email get on to your representative. And that's the only thing I can advocate is be effective with your writing.
So, hey, in that context, help me out. So I've written a lot of letters to the NRA board of directors. We have the campaign hashtag 76 and 76, where we're trying to encourage all the NRA members to write each one of their 76 directors. Now, currently there's not exactly 76. There's been 8 resignations and not enough people to fill them, but I digress. How would you advise a guy like me writing an NRA director that doesn't have an intern that might actually read the email? How would I go about that? Should I, say this corruption is crazy and completely?
No, I would draw a comparison. Obviously I'd have to think about that. I think I'd have to obviously know who I'm talking to. I got to know the subject matter, right? I got to know, what motivates them. Are they there because they want to get a big check from either the NRA or a sponsor, or are they there because they care about our 2A rights? I mean, there's so many of them there that are there for the glamour, yet when it comes to stopping what's happening everywhere across the country, they phone in the vote. They're asleep at the wheel. And so the challenge would be to hold those people accountable. And right now, I mean, the only way we can do that is defund them. I mean, and it comes down to, and I say defund them, but also we don't support the companies that support them, because ultimately it comes down to these multi-million-dollar companies. If they're going to go lock, stock, and barrel with NRA, that doesn't support our rights, then we're kind of paying them to donate money to something that needs to be fixed. You're kind of going in the wrong way, and so I think it's important that we do vote with our dollars,
And that's come to a point of conversation a couple of times this week. To Save the Second say that we should continue to be annual members, right? Annual members have to renew every year and pay their dues, literally pay their dues. Lifetime members do not have to provide any more monetary funds because they're already a lifetime member. So that's something to consider. If you're a lifetime member, you don't have to just call up and say, I cancel my membership. You don't have to pay another dime to be able, and of course, lifetime members or better have a vote. They are automatically voting eligible if you are a paid for lifetime member or better. Annual membership has to have 5 consecutive years of membership in order to be a voting eligible member. Unfortunately, I'm one of those guys that had to renew because I'm an annual member. I'm not a lifetime member. I had to renew. I had to give the NRA, and it's so cringeworthy, dude. It hurts my soul to think that I'm giving $35 to Wayne LaPierre because, well, he's just going to get his $2.2 million salary, and on top of that, his private jet travel, and on top of that, his wardrobe and more things. Mansion. Yeah, exactly. Right.
For what? Has he stopped any single law that's happening right now? Have them as it just makes me go crazy thinking about it, because there's so many other organizations that we could be investing our time and our resources in and supporting that are doing the work that the NRA should be doing.
Right.
And it's like a slush fund now. It's a joke. I mean, and I'm thankful for the support that I've gotten from the NRA Foundation. I think we've received a couple grants for some rifles, and they've been really, really good to us. But they're volunteers. They're on the fundraising foundation side. They're not in
the general fund. Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people that work for the NRA that are kind of disenfranchised, and which I feel bad because at the end of the day they're trying to do a job, but it's like the leadership is just I don't know.
Yeah, and of course that's what we're trying to change. We've got 5 goals to change the corruption, the malfeasance, the leadership. So we want a smaller board of directors.
Yeah.
We talked about that. We want a board that actually shows up. How about that? Attendance policy, which we had our petition back in September, and they're going to rehear that in January. That's going to be interesting if they actually put in an attendance policy. There's several directors that have not even shown up to one board meeting. Imagine that.
Yeah.
And beyond that, we, smaller board, the attendance term limits. We have the term limit petition that just wrapped up that we're going to send here probably on Monday, send all the petitions in to have that heard. And now those are the 3 things that specifically target the board. We also want 2A exclusive focus. The NRA doesn't need to be talking about walls, in Mexico, because, well, I mean, the walls, that's a different subject altogether. That's not teaching people firearm safety. That's not teaching people how to exercise their rights. And beyond that, beyond having an exclusive 2A focus, we want to see the members get engaged. 94% that did not vote in a direct election is unacceptable. 94% that would presumably sit on a couch through a real election, political election is just, it's unacceptable. They got to get out and vote. They got to do something. You got to get off the couch.
The biggest complaint I have in Oregon is we sat home and let a re-election happen where we could have just held our nose and voted for the candidate that could have won, and we might be sitting in a different situation. The problem is we have to not focus on the perfect candidate, because there's no such thing, right? There's no such thing as a perfect candidate, but there's a candidate that can win, and that's the difference. And we focus on, well, he's solid on this, weak on this. Oh, I just can't vote for him. It's like, okay, but can he beat his opponent or her opponent? We're our own worst enemy. We really are. And so I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I just want us to see the sheer realness of the situation that we're in around the country. Okay. Look at Connecticut, look at New Jersey, Colorado, Oregon, Washington. Oh my gosh, what happened there? And that's just north of the border. I mean, California is always going to be California. We shouldn't model our gun laws around the country after California. That's the biggest failed policy in the history of the United States, and we shouldn't be focusing there. And there's a lot of people behind the enemy lines down there in California that are doing good work, but they're really outnumbered.
Yeah.
So
many of the people that could make the difference by showing up and voting aren't. We saw the same thing in Virginia, man, in the NRA's backyard. It went full blue, but not just like, your classic Democrat, Bill Clinton blue. I'm talking, anti-gun 100% full throttle blue. And that's so scary to me. My gosh.
We have to realize this is happening all over the country. And they're moving out of California. They're cashing out with millions, and they're going into these red parts and turning them purple. It happened in Texas. We almost lost 5 seats in Texas, and look at San Antonio. San Antonio as a city, I mean, there's guys that are fighting to keep their ability to keep a rifle in San Antonio. And it's insane. And the problem with all this division is there's no solution that comes out of it, right? And so that's my biggest challenge is, obviously, I'm sitting here in the middle. I got the NRA over here. I got Moms and Man over here. And then there's, nobody listens. When we are in that situation, the ears shut down and nobody listens, and the carnage continues. We have solutions. We just have to put them into action to make them happen. Right. We should be writing laws. I mean, when I went to GRPC this year, I was going to come back and write another law. And it was going to be offensive. It was going to be I was going to write a constitutional carry bill in Oregon, and I still might, just because the way I look at it is everything's incrementalism with them, right?
Right.
They take. Well, I want to reverse incrementalize. Okay. That's why I wrote a safety education bill, because I want to take ground back. Okay. The same concept between about that constitutional carry bill would have been like, I have a right to do this. It's already been upheld in multiple courts. Okay. And it would address certain parts that are failing in Oregon. And it would talk about, gun-free zones. I would render those obsolete in Oregon. And, obviously I worked on the verbiage, but I've just got so many other things that I can't commit to doing it. And I would have done it as a ballot initiative. And, if I could get it on the ballot and we could vote, and I mean, it'd be almost impossible to overturn.
Right.
And that's, but if I can do it, so can somebody watching this video.
Yeah.
And
that's the cool thing.
It's just figure out what you can do, what your strengths are, and then put in the work.
My goodness, man. Well, we've been talking for an hour and 4 minutes now. That's awesome. That's about the perfect time to start wrapping it up. Derek, okay. So before you start closing down and give your final, thoughts and whatnot, you've got to tell me, how can a guy like me support you and Kids Safe Foundation?
Well, there's a couple ways. I mean, obviously, social media is huge. That is our fuel. So you can follow our page, the Kids Safe Foundation on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and that's what I encourage you with your organization is that those likes, those comments, and those shares. Those are the fuel. I mean, we don't pay anything for marketing, but we reach a lot of people, and it's about putting out a good content, good message. You also can find us on our website, kidsafefoundation.org. You can also donate through PayPal there. We're also on Amazon Smile as well. I mean, we don't get a lot of support, but it's not about the money. It's about, typically when I get a cash donation, it goes in the fuel tank to get to the next class. It's not, or promotional material. It's, we do all right, but it's a lot of work. But it's something that we need to do, because if I don't do it, who else is going to do it? That's the way I look at it. And if I don't do it, I don't trust the other side to do it.
Right.
So, they do have I think it's a Be Smart program. But I don't think it's anything of what we do.
Right, man.
So,
you're 2.0 for sure. There's no doubt about that. I saw the one picture of the one of your young students that had shot, and just a beautiful target, where all the hits were just gorgeous, and I was I think I commented on it. I was like, oh my goodness, that's a great target. And you said, that was her first time shooting.
Yes.
That was so cool.
Yeah. And that's the tremendous honor for me is I almost get more excited for them, because like I want to put out good, strong young kids. And that's at the end of our class, they shake hands, get a certificate, and I make sure they look me in the eye and give me eye contact, because I'm trying to build strong future leaders and future voters and future gun owners if they choose to do it. But if they don't, then I respect that too. Everybody has that right, but with that right comes great responsibility, and that comes through education.
Absolutely agree. Well, boy, that's a heck of a note to end on, but man, I like listening to you. Do you have anything else to say?
I'm thankful for the opportunity. I appreciate the hard work that you're doing on behalf of gun owners. That this is not probably a popular trend that you're trying to start, but I think it's something that we have to be able to have a conversation. And right now the NRA is not in a position to have a conversation to protect our rights, and so we have to get back to a position where they can be. And I know they can be. We just have to cut some of the fat.
I absolutely agree with that, folks. I think that he hit it right on the head. We have to have a strong, relevant, effective, accountable NRA. We have to trim the fat. Yep. And if you want to use the analogy of cancer, you have to remove the cancer so the body can get better. And that's exactly what we have to do. We might have to have a bit of surgery, and for that surgery, we would need your help, especially at the January NRA Board of Directors meeting, which is going to be in Tyson, Virginia. And that's the NRA board meeting, January 11th, 2020, Tyson's, Virginia. If you can make it out, all NRA members have a right to attend this board meeting. Beyond that, the NRA annual meeting in Nashville, April 16th to 19th. I'm definitely going to be there. Derek, are you going to be out there? Do you guys have a booth for any meeting? No.
Yeah, I'd rather do something over here to educate kids as opposed to spend money to travel to probably someplace I wouldn't want to be.
I don't blame you at all. No,
I typically go to Gun Rights Policy Conference every year. I think that's if somebody's going to spend money and get involved, that's a great conference to join. I think we're going to be in Orlando, Florida next year. Highly recommend it. Lots of great speakers. Really, it's put on by the Second Amendment Foundation, so check that out. They're doing a lot of good work on our behalf, and so I can't say. DC Project, check them out. They're doing a lot on our behalf. Walk the Talk America, that's another one that's doing a lot of great work. And Hold My Guns as well, .org. That's another great one. So I support all those organizations. They're great. So there's power in numbers, and we have to band together. So
I totally agree. We had Genevieve from holdmyguns.org as our second guest. You're actually our third guest that we've had.
All right.
Yeah, no kidding, man. So thank you so much, man. Derek, I love everything you're doing. You're awesome. Please keep it up. And by God, folks, if you're listening to this, please support Kids Safe Foundation. I'm certainly going to do that. And oh my goodness gracious, the next time I'm in Eugene, Oregon, we are going to hang and we are going to have a good time.
All right. Sounds good. Let me know.
All right, folks. So wrapping up, to state the facts frankly is not to despair the future nor indict the past. The prudent heir takes careful inventory of his legacies and gives a faithful accounting to those of whom he owes an obligation of trust. That's John F. Kennedy, and that's my personal mindset for trying to reform the NRA. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for following us on Facebook, on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Of course, you know where to find the podcast, man. You can find it on your favorite podcast app. As always, our website is savethe2a.org. Nick Dooley is the voiceover in our introduction. He's awesome. He owns Dooley Defense in Pierre, South Dakota. And from all of us here at Save the Second, who are all volunteers, by the way, thank you very much for watching, for listening, and please contact your NRA Board of Directors. Have a good night.